Are you listening? Damn. Yeah. Yeah.
Another episode of Trash Talk. I'm Damian Hill. With me as always is TJ O'Connor. Tonight on Trash Talk, we're here to answer a fan question on how to ease the training partner into sparring. But before we do that, we're going to go over the list of our sponsors. We have Ink Shrinks Tattoo out in New Brighton, Minnesota, Origin Wellness CBD, James Clark Sports Psychology and Hypnosis Therapy, the Striking Institute, TJ's mom, and the Fighters. How you doing tonight, TJ?
Dude, I'm good. I'm glad to be back. Missed you guys.
Yeah, I honestly, like, this fan question, it makes me feel like when you first joined the gym, and when I had to start teaching you and easing you into sparring. You know, like, I had to, like, really, like, hold your hand and guide you into that. You remember that?
No, not so clearly. I feel like I might have been on a little bit of a different side. I had to, like, hey, you should tone back the sparring. That's really not that serious. No. But I think it's a great question because, I mean, it's a real thing. And when you talk, like, from, like, a boxing perspective, sparring is... It's almost a fight. Put on the headgear, you go in there with the big gloves. So when guys see that, they almost think, oh, we're going to go fight. And at some gyms, that's the case. Yeah, well, I want to interject a little bit because that's what people think that the fight is. Like, or I don't know if that's what you said. I'm sorry if that is. But, like, I'm like, 'cause sparring, it doesn't have to be a fight. It's supposed to be a simulated version of the fight, you know? And the guys that think that it is supposed to be a fight or that they treat it completely like a fight are... I feel like are the reasons why a lot of guys are hesitant to spar when they first come in, especially knowing that, let's say you have 12 fights yourself and I come into the gym with none, and I don't care what you look like or how you are. It's like you have experience that I don't, and I don't know what you're going to do to me. But on the flip side of that, before I get in too much into this, it's like I'm always scared to spar the new guys. One, you know nothing about them, and two, you don't know how hard they're going to go. But we'll get into that a little bit later, I guess, because that is a little bit on topic. But easing those guys that are hesitant because they hear the horror stories, you know, it's, I don't know, let me just say this, because you've seen me do this with a lot of the kids, and I've done it with some of the adults too, and it's not to patronize anybody in any sense, but getting a guy or a girl comfortable throwing punches at a moving target in the ring, you know? So myself, I have a little bit more experience, and I feel like a lot of the guys that do have more experience or feel like they have more experience than at least the person they're easing into the training should do this. But work on your head movement while give them one or two punches. They throw their jab and get comfortable walking you down and throwing your jab, and you get comfortable slipping just the jab, you know, whichever side you slip to because whatever stance they are, you know. And getting comfortable doing that, you get some work in, and they start to develop a little bit more comfortability throwing punches. And then obviously easing into more punches and eventually just start saying, hey, throw some more punches back, and easing into you throwing one or two back or simulating like, hey, you could be open, you know, every time you throw your jab, you're dropping it when you bring it back, so drop it and bring it, or throw it and bring it back up here, and you just kind of flinch at them, let them know that they could be hit but don't actually hit them. They start to develop the reaction, and eventually they start to feel more comfortable and end up sparring. Yeah, and I feel like that's really how you have to do it. You have to sit down and whether you, like you said, pull them aside and say, hey, no, here, you throw punches at me, or even just kind of let them know, like, hey, my goal is to not beat you up. I want you to get a look. Let's go in there and work. And you have to kind of break that ice, because I feel like without addressing it, it can create a tension almost where, you know, especially if, you know, me and you go in there and you have a fight coming up and you're trying to spar hard, that's even worse, because then we go in there and we start beating the hell out of each other, and then they think that that's what it's like. And it almost takes those rounds of seeing you go in there with, like you said, a kid or something like that, and show, you know, it's not that serious always, because, I mean, like you said, at the end of the day, this is training. I mean, we're here to get better.
Okay, well, here's an aspect as well. How do you get a guy comfortable throwing punches while the guy's trying to punch them, too? You know, that I feel like that's a hard part, because, I mean, we've said it before on the show. it feels good to beat somebody up.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, when you're punching, you can get punch happy and just start going, and then get popped with one, you know, because you're just opening yourself up a little bit, you know. But how do you develop the adjustment or the fear of dealing with that?
I think that the nicest way to ease it in would probably be work the body a little bit.
Yeah.
'Cause I mean, like you said, it can create a false sense of security. If you're sparring around with someone who's not throwing back, and you're just throwing punches, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, these are landed. Wait, okay, I got this here. But it's not a real world. That guy's not firing back. You know he's not firing back, so it creates a different illusion. But once you start throwing back, and you know, even you can start working it hard, you know, feint, a lot of feint, stuff like that to the head. But I'm a big proponent of, you know, not taking hard head shots in practice anyways. I think it's a waste of time and a waste of those brain cells, especially now that we know what we know about, you know, headshots, things like that. So you start working in those hard body shots, kind of just like a, you know, I can hit you back too, but I'm not trying to kill you, which is still a pretty nice thing to do, even though body shots suck.
Yeah, because I mean, you don't, and then that's another thing too, is like once you start working with the guy and letting him throw punches all the time and letting him get comfortable, sometimes they start to believe that they're a lot better than what they are. And you got to give them a reality check, because I don't know, I feel like that's another topic, you know, but it's just, it is a reality that we do face when you're trying to get guys more comfortable throwing punches, you know, because half of it is throwing punches while punches are coming at you, but a big part of that is just getting comfortable throwing punches in the first place, you know, against a moving target, not the bag. And then, I mean, sometimes I feel like a lot of people are hesitant to jump into sparring because they don't want to look stupid.
Yeah.
You know, they don't want to miss. They don't want to. It's not even the fact that they think they're going to get beat up. They think that they're going to look stupid because anybody can hit the bag. I mean, I have never ever in the history of ever missed a punch that I threw on the fucking heavy bag.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
But I've missed plenty of punches that I've thrown at sparring partners. And I felt stupid.
Yeah, that's a real thing. I mean, it's really easy to look good on the bag. It's easy to look good on the mitts once you get that combination down and you know the cadences that you're doing. But when it's live, even semi-live, like an action of sparring, you know, some lies can get exposed. And if you're living, especially if you're one of those guys, and this isn't a lot of fighters. This is guys that are at the gym, and I think everybody watching this knows the difference. I think it's an ego thing, like you said. They don't want to get exposed, especially in front of the coaches, because you know when they're tapping the bag and it sounds really loud, and they're like, "Oh, that guy punches hard."
Yeah.
But then you watch him in there when he's live person, and it's just no distance, no timing, because he's never done it before.
Yeah, I mean, those are all things to consider when you're trying to get a guy or a girl in the sparring and easing them in. Yeah. And then especially if they are intimidated by a lot of the fighters, the pros or the experienced amateurs at the gym, showing them spar with the kid and that they have their skills under control as well will definitely ease the mind of the person who thinks that they're just going to step in there and get beat up, you know? Yeah. So to Daniel, I hope we answered your question. If anybody else has any more fan questions for us, please don't hesitate to reach out. This has been Trash Talk with Damian and TJ. TJ, could you remind them?
Don't be a hoe.
Yes.